ever wondered why a bolero can make you cry, even if you don't understand the lyrics? What if I told you that behind every heartrending melody, there's a story of forbidden love, political turmoil, or a struggle for freedom? Get ready to discover the hidden histories that make these timeless songs echo across generations. Forget everything you think you know about boleros. We're about to unearth the incredible, and often shocking, true stories that inspired these iconic love songs. From passionate affairs to tragic farewells, ULL never listened to Bésame Mucho or Solamente una vez the same way again. Our journey begins with a myth whispered into legend. A young Mexican pianist, trained in classical music, composes a bolero about kissing, without ever having kissed anyone. Consuelo Velázquez was barely in her early 20s when she wrote Bésame Mucho years later. She would say she composed it before her first kiss, with that mix of shyness and desire that makes your hands tremble. The melody, they say, was inspired by an early 20th century Spanish piano piece by Enrique Granados. Listen closely to the motif. It's like a nightingale's call, a plea. But in her bolero, the plea is no longer a bird's, it is human, urgent. Kiss me deeply, as if tonight were the last time. That was all it took. A world on the brink of war recognized itself in that frantic anxiety of farewell. That's why the song traveled through different styles and countries, embracing the collective fear of losing everything at dawn. The bolero has always been a mirror of its time. As Mexico, Cuba, and all of Latin America navigated the currents of modernity and upheaval, these songs held what people didn't dare say out loud. Agustín Lara, the nocturnal poet of piano bars, did the same. His song Solamente una vez was born for the cinema, first performed in the film Melodías de América in the early 1940s. It quickly became an international passport through its English version, You Belong to My Heart, featured in Disney's The Three Cow. And here's the curious part. The English lyrics barely resemble the original, but the emotion does. It's that same promise of a love that happens only once, unrepeatable. A love that changes you forever. But not all boleros are built on promise. Some are forged in grief. In Panama, Carlos Ileta Almiron wrote Historia de un amor with a heart shattered by a death very close to home. His brother's wife had passed away. The pain is so direct, the song feels like a posthumous letter. You are no longer by my side, my love. It traveled to Mexican cinema and from there to the rest of the world, becoming a tango, a ballad, a bolero sung in 1,000 different accents. Even today, it keeps being translated into new languages, as if mourning itself needed to learn every tongue in order to say goodbye properly. Sometimes the wound isn't death, but betrayal. Inigo Sancho Alberto Dominguez from Chiapas wrote Perfidia, an old word for disloyalty. It emerged on the edge of World War II and became the soundtrack for Impossible Loves on screen and on the radio. What's fascinating is that, despite its simple lyrics, the arrangement welcomes jazz, trios, orchestras, or marimba. The outfit changes, but the knot in your throat doesn't. That's why its story is rewritten again and again, as if every generation needs to find a new way to name the one who left them. But not all bolero melancholy comes from heartbreak. In Havana during the 1940s and 50s, when clubs mixed cigarette smoke with new harmonies, a group of musicians created fill-in raw emotion on the surface, with jazz beating inside the bolero's heart. From that scene came Contigo en la Distancia, written by César Portillo de la Luz when he was just 24. There's no resentment here, only a luminous dependence, a presence you can't see but that lives inside you. It's a bolero that walks on modern chords and confesses without shouting, proving that intimacy itself can be an aesthetic revolution. And then there is the eternal maybe, quizá. The structure repeats the evasion over and over, and that repetition, like a stubborn clock, slowly erodes the hope of the person asking. A delicious detail Fars achieved worldwide fame without knowing how to read music. His song, translated into English as Perhaps, was covered by voices of every style, from Desi Arnaz to Doris Day. The perhaps in the title is more than a word, it asks the suspense where many loves live and die. If you look closely, each of these stories does something similar. It takes a private emotion and makes it public without revealing any names. That SYA bolero can make you cry even when you don't understand the lyrics. Because before language, a bolero is breath at pause where your chest decides whether to stay or to go. And when you do understand the lyrics, what you're hearing isn't gossip, it's a confession. Consuelo Velázquez transformed her private anxiety, that first kiss that hadn't arrived yet, into a global anthem of desire and the fear of loss. Agustín Lara turned the ideal of a once-in-a-lifetime love into a standard sung in bars, cinemas, and living rooms. Almiron recorded a family grief that became universal comfort. Dominguez explained betrayal with 3 syllables that need no translation. Portillo de la Luz proved that closeness can be written through distance. And Fars turned indecision into rhythm. There's politics here too, of course. Though a bolero never makes speeches, Bésame Mucho has become a symbol, sometimes an uncomfortable one, in halls of power. A romantic melody capable of revealing more than intended when 2 public figures dance a little too close. A song born from a classical piano piece and adolescent longing ended up commenting, unintentionally, on the public lives of ministers and diplomats. That's the strange power of the bolero. It disarms defenses where headlines cannot reach. So why do these songs endure? Because they are built like good stories, a clear conflict, precise language, and a melody that needs no explanation to wound you. And because every new version rewrites them. Sung softly by a trio, they become confidential. Arranged for a big band, they become confessions no one can ignore. Stripped down by a pop voice, they sound like a midnight text message. And when you don't understand the lyrics, what remains is the body of the bolero, that cadence that rocks you and then holds you, that anticipates and then releases. Your brain might not translate the words, but it recognizes the architecture of emotion. When the harmony falls into an unresolved tension, your heart anticipates the pain. When a phrase lingers on a long note, your chest runs out of air with it. When the chorus returns like an echo, you repeat what you swore you wouldn't say again. In the end, a bolero is a way of telling the world. Bésame Mucho speaks of the fear of losing. Solamente una besa of faith in the unrepeated. Historia de un amor of an absence that occupies every chair. Perfidiet of a wound that refuses to heal. Contigo en la distancia of a bond that survives space. And quizás of time slipping away while we wait for an answer. The names change, the cities change, the governments change. What doesn't change is the human way of hurting, waiting, and asking. So the next time you hear a bolero at a cafe, in a car at dawn, or from a street singer, ask yourself what story you're hearing behind the story. It may not be yours yet, but when it reaches you, you'll already have the words to name it. Because boleros don't just tell love stories, they teach us how to speak of them without shame. And that's why, even when you don't understand the lyrics, you end up crying. Not because of what they say, but because of what they dared to reveal. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden stories behind the music you love.